Hello and welcome back to Career Channels. This is Doug Foresta, and as you can see, if you're watching this, you can see. If not, you'll know in a moment. I am back with Diane Head, the executive director of CareerSource North Florida. We're going to be talking. This is end of the year recap, and what a year it's been. We're going to talk about that. Diane, always great to be with you.
It is most excellent to be here and take a minute to breathe and do some retrospective analysis, maybe. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you and I last did an episode. It was like mid-year episode looking at 23. And I kind of asked you some questions about what do you see ahead, but I don't think that you saw some of the things that were ahead. I don't think you saw. So let's start with some of those. The first one was you had a visit from a woman who is a category 3 hurricane. Category 4. You had a visit from a hurricane. Is that correct?
We did. We did. It was our turn, apparently. She came into the state somewhere between Cedar Key and Keaton Beach in that general area. Keaton Beach is actually in my region, in Taylor County. So the coastal Taylor County was pretty hard hit, but all of Taylor County was hard hit. I'm telling you. And trees everywhere, debris everywhere. But also Lafayette County, Madison County, and even beyond that, out further outside that wind zone, that wind tunnel, Jefferson County to the west, and Suwannee and Hamilton County a little bit further away, but they still experience so much damage. The trees on houses, people without jobs.
Oh
It
boy.
it's it's been a lot. It is, we're kind of getting to that place where the debris is off the roads, the debris is out of the yards. Most everybody except for me has their yard cleaned up, and it's back to normal. Your FEMA application, if you haven't applied yet, it's kind of too late. But even our office here in where I'm sitting right now, which is in Madison, which is our comprehensive one-stop co-located with our administrative offices. Uh, our office became a DRC, the Disaster Recovery Center, for
Wow.
survivors of the hurricane, and they were here for from that first week of September, that Labor Day week, all the way through until just a few weeks ago. They were here. They were our coworkers and our partners for quite some time. They had it set up in all the counties. All 6 counties were disaster area, disaster declarations. And so we are now working with our partners at the state agency, Florida Commerce, to administer the National Dislocated Worker Grant, um, in hopes of putting people into work, recovery jobs, so to speak. So, if it weren't for the hurricane, these jobs wouldn't exist. So some of that is it's longer term recovery
Yeah.
is what we really think about with those jobs. So that's a program we've not run before. We haven't had to, but the storm, there are many long term there we go, long-term recovery efforts that we're trying to make sure that our friends and partners have resources for, and helping them through funding those positions through the disaster grant.
Sadly, I know a lot of times people say workforce development is the best kept secret. But sadly, I think it's times like these often, and I don't know, curious about your thoughts about this, where you do have something like this happen to a community where people really find out what a resource workforce development is. I'm curious if that's been your experience at all, that people have said, wow, this is.
Yeah, it really gave us the opportunity to outreach and stretch a little bit beyond what we normally do. Like I
Right.
said, even with the DRC, there were people coming into our office who had never been into our office, which was great. Haha, now you know where we are. Now you know what we do.
Right, exactly.
Right. And they were like, "Oh, it's so wonderful in here. You have this and you have this." Yes, we
Yes,
do.
we
Come
do.
back. Let us help you. Let us help your children, your grandchildren, whoever it is. But please come back in. We welcome you anytime. But also taking our mobile unit down to the coastal area, and being able to serve those individuals. That's been a something we'll continue to do.
Yeah.
Um, we've been parking our mobile unit, I'm going to say, in the Steenhatchee area. Our friends at the American Legion there have been wonderful hosts for us. And so that's been a really good outcome also. And like I said, we're going to continue to go there and provide services. So because it's quite a drive for them to come in to other parts of the county or even the neighboring county to get services. It's just a remote area. You think about that, truly the Big Bend in Florida, that's where we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it is nature's coast. It's not hotels and palm trees and things like that. It's a lot of pine trees, or it was a lot of pine trees prior
Right.
to the storm. So, and it's a think of more like a fishing village, right? And if some restaurants, but it's mostly residential, um, and it's not always the easiest thing for people to come in for services. So we're trying to go where people are.
That's wonderful. That's great. And again, just underscores the importance of the workforce development board in your area and in all areas. But all right, so that happened. And then you had another not a maybe more of a metaphorical hurricane. You had a warn notice, right? In maybe not like a month after the hurricane, basically.
Within the month, within 2.5 weeks,
Oh wow.
we had, so the hurricane on, we were just talking August 30th,
Yeah.
and then the warn notice came in on the Monday, I believe it was September 18th. I have to look at a calendar for those specific dates. Should have them memorized by now, but it was a warn notice for a plant closure, a facility closure in our region, over 500 workers at that facility. But as we know in the workforce development world, you're never just looking at one employer. There's this interdependence of an economy,
Right.
and specifically that employer was a cellulose producer. So meaning they're bringing in logs every day, and they have their own contractors in the plant as well.
Yeah.
So it was those maintenance contractors, it was those logging crews, it was
Mm.
and the
There's a
ripple
ripple.
effects out from there.
That's what I was
Yeah.
going to say. Ripple effect. Yep, exactly.
So not just 500-ish, there was a few more than that, 500 people. It was more, we're really looking at 2,000 in that area. We've probably served to date, and this is just a guess because there's really no good way to tell where those ripple effects end, right? I'll say we've maybe touched, of that broader 2,000 worker number, we've maybe touched 300 to 400.
Wow.
So but in response to that, again, maybe something good that's come out for our services is we've had, by necessity, had to stand up an office in Taylor County in Perry, because that's, again, the hardest hit of the hurricane, and then right after it, this huge impact to the local economy. Now those workers were paid through mid-November, November 17th, I believe, because that was the time frame of the warn notice. But we're getting into that rhythm of helping people on Mondays and Tuesdays file their reemployment claims or claiming their weeks. And so that process has started now, and has been over the last few weeks. So, there are timetables to those things. When people start requesting more services, different services, at first it's, we really push job fairs. We were a part of 3 job fairs, and kind of each one bigger than the next.
Yeah.
And the largest one coming a lot closer to that end date of the WARN. And the community as a whole really coming together to support these workers, to support people whose homes have been affected from the hurricane. I mean, it's just this whole montage of
I know, and then
horribleness, ugliness.
right before the holidays too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
So, I know it was a question, but it made me think, you mentioned that you were going to ask me what made me the proudest this year. And I'm really going to say being a part of North Florida, and all the organizations that we work with day in, day out, really coming together to serve individuals, whatever that, trigger was for them. Uh, Whatever's put them in a bad spot, I think we've really come together um, to help lessen the blow, I hope.
yeah,
We can't take those things, we can't make them not have happened,
yeah.
but we're going to meet them where they are and walk the rest of the path with them, together with our partners. So I think that that's been, again, a positive outcome.
And I have to say, just from the perspective of hearing other directors around the country talk about, 2023, and one of the things that's changed is, and what I hear you say too, is that, workforce boards really, and I think this is a great example, what you just shared, it's moved beyond just we are administrators of WIOA funds, or we run WIOA programs. It's really, like you said, it's the partnerships with the community. It's, you know, being a convener that helps the economic development needs, the workforce development needs, and just the needs in the moment of communities. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. Yes, without any hesitation at all. That's where we are. And I'm not the selfish workforce development director. It doesn't matter to me if we ever get credit. Some of my staff are like, "But Diane, we did that and they took credit for it." It doesn't matter to me. It was done and it was great.
Yeah.
And internally we know, and that's fine. I
Yeah.
think it's great that everybody wants to be involved and everybody wants to be a part of.
Yeah.
And so we've really tried to pull all those pieces together so that everybody can contribute. And again, that matter to me as long as people get the services they need. So
Yeah.
that's the most important piece.
Yeah. No, I agree. But, part of the reason we're doing this today is so people do understand your role. It's not, I get it. It's not like we have to take all the credit, but I think it's important for people to know and understand that, that the board is a valuable resource in the community. I'm sure more than ever now, probably since this fall, there's probably even a greater understanding of that.
I hope so. And again, it's just given us another platform to build on for the
Yeah.
future. And people asking hey, how can I be a part of that? Or, hey, how can we help? Actually, I got a Christmas card from somebody that was like, "Hey, I met some of your staff during hurricane response and want to know what we can do to further help you." I'm
Wow.
like, "Wow, okay."
Like, can I get more of these cards, right?
Yeah, send them. Come on. Yeah. I mean that, I think not that workforce development is sexy, but everybody does want to be a piece of the puzzle and everybody does have valuable input. And that
Yeah.
even goes down to or up to individuals trying to, different groups, different pockets, even citizens trying to market and sell the plant site, the facility site that was
Wow.
closed. It's everybody contributing and all hands on deck, right? So
Well, that brings up a point that I wanted to ask you, which was about, I know there's so many people that I'm sure, like you said, have helped, but talk a little bit about some of those partnerships, because I'm imagining, especially with the hurricane, I mean, people needed food, they needed shelter, they needed a million things. So talk about some of those partners that you've worked with to get through, both of these challenges.
So the hurricane especially initially gave us some really good inroads with our partners, like the chambers of commerce, and our, community sponsors or supporters, which I already mentioned, the American Legion. And sometimes it's not always the partners that you think about offhand.
Yeah.
Right? It's other partners. Early Learning Coalition sent workers into our office to have like a little rest station for people, with snacks and waters and things like that. Our training providers, they were still welcoming us in the door. I With the chambers, especially the Taylor County Chamber of Commerce, they really they let us in. They let our mobile unit park at their shop. We were co-located with the chamber and the SBDC all together in one space. We had our workforce partners from our neighboring regions come in and help. The capital region over in Tallahassee sent folks in. Our friends in Jacksonville at CareerSource North Florida sent their mobile van that was set with computers and things like that, and staff to really be our service leader in Taylor County, in that southern piece of Taylor County, until I had enough staff back on board to go in and provide services, because my staff needed to get their things together too. We all had stuff. We had trees on cars and trees on houses and driveways blocked and all of that. I didn't have power for 177 and a half hours,
Wow.
which is just over a week, about a
Yeah.
week and a half a day. And, just washing clothes, something simple like that. Now, I will say our emergency management operations did an excellent job across the region. They had places where you could go bathe and shower and wash clothes and things like that. So not taking anything away from that. There was definitely the resources for anybody that needed them, and they did an excellent job. Even I had, and I can't even remember the agency right off, because it was just constant phone calls for weeks. Um, and but there was an agency that called me and said, "Diane, you don't know who I am, but I've got a truckload of supplies and I need a secure facility to park them in,
Wow.
to drop them. And I was told to call you." I don't even care how they got my number. It's fine. That's what we're here to do, is to help people figure those pieces out in this kind of situation. And I was able to call um, a principal I knew, because I knew that the school would lock, the gates on the school lock. And they did. They parked their semi in there. Um, I mean, just little community connections where, the state and the feds are really sending in resources, and that's great. But those community connections of, well, where can I get this and how do I do that and who do I call for this? There was
Yeah.
a lot of those calls. Um, just for notes, anybody that's has to do storm recovery or any kind of disaster recovery, when a hurricane blows through, it knocks down the cell towers. Don't try to email people.
Right.
because
Right.
because even on my phone,
Yeah.
there was I couldn't get emails
Yeah.
for a long time,
Right.
for many,
Right.
many
Yeah.
days. And people were like, "But I emailed you and told you." Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Next time, I mean, so, and I don't know how, the inner workings of these devices work. I am not an expert on that. I know how to allocate federal dollars, right? Um, but seriously, I could get phone calls, but I couldn't get text messages, or I could get
Right.
phone calls, but I couldn't get emails.
Right.
And not that we're in one of those areas where there's not broadband currently, so that even more so, we don't have the infrastructure to
Right.
support all the people coming in to,
Right. Who need to communicate with each other and are, yeah, eating up
yeah.
the bandwidth of, yeah.
And just simple things like, I know that, some of the agencies were setting up together and they really wanted us to be a part, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have connectivity. I was just out cleaning up my yard. That's yeah, so it but we learn
Yeah.
and we'll move forward from that,
Yeah.
and hopefully there's not a next time, but I
No,
know
I
we've
know.
been
What a testament. But what a testament, I mean, to your flexibility, to the resources you have to bring, to the quality of the partnerships and the relationships that you've cultivated, within the region. I think it's great for people to hear this. Um, Not great that you lived through it, but great that, you know,
I
I
don't
mean, sort
know. I'm pretty happy I lived through it, Doug.
of. Well, right. I don't mean, yes, touche. Good point. I'm glad you lived through it as well. So, all right. So with that, I figured we'd close off with talking about 2024. So what's going to happen in 24? Tell us about the world. What's it going to be like? No, what are the winning lottery numbers for?
Again, I think I've said before, let me pull out my crystal ball here
Yes,
and look
yes,
into it. One thing that we continue to work in the background is the transition or realignment of the regions in Florida. So that will happen. Take effect July 1st. So we're it's just so hard to lose a friend. And I don't think we're losing a friend, but they will be served by another region.
right.
And so that's there, but there's a lot of work that goes into that, a lot of foundational documents, our interlocal agreement, our bylaw, everything has to be kind of changed up. Luckily, there are other regions that are being consolidated where they have to create a whole new entity. So we're fortunate that we don't have to do that. But at the same time, there's still a lot of work to be done on that front. And it's, we've talked before, there's never enough hands to get it all done. So, that's here locally, that's here in the state.
Yeah,
Obviously, we talked before you pressed record about, new administration potentially, and all the effects that could come with that on WEO reauthorization, which I'm reminded we talked about last year in my crystal ball. I was seeing hints of it, but it never. I must have dropped the ball, the
you were
crystal
just
ball on that.
early. You were just early. It's going to happen soon. You were ahead of your time.
But there's a lot of movement there, and maybe some precursor bills being being looked at from Congress at this time. So
Yeah.
we'll see where that goes. I don't know. We're going to continue to do what we do for our friends, neighbors, and family, and continue providing services and helping them on their career path. So
Well, I so appreciate you coming back and sort of wrapping up the year for us here. I think it's important for people to hear all the things that you've been up to. And yes, you have definitely not been just, you've been hard at work.
you
You were
thought
hard
I
at
was
work.
avoiding you, didn't you?
I did not think you were avoiding me. I knew there was a good reason. But I'm really glad, like I said, we get to do this. I hope we could do it again, maybe early Q2 of 24 and see all the exciting, hopefully all just positive things that are happening in in the in North Florida and in the state and beyond, hopefully. So Dan, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming back and like I said, sharing all that's been happening, and even though there's been a lot of challenges, you also highlighted a lot of good things, people coming together to meet those challenges.
There's always good that comes out of bad. So we have to keep that perspective in mind. It's not always easy to do that though. So it is nice to talk through it. This is a little bit of therapy time for me. So
Awesome. Dan, thank you so much. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
thanks and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.